Welcome back. Finally, we are going to have our last question. This question is from Mr. Chen.
So my question is about student tuitions. What policies and incentives your parties suggest to make the post-secondary education more accessible for more students?
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Leung.
Oh, is it my turn?
Oh,
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For post-secondary education to be more accessible, I believe in that we do have the federal student grant that is in place, and once the student is in the program, they get to benefit from that, as well as, especially in the field of engineering, once they leave, there are innovation grants that they can pursue. And I'm referring to the SRED that I have also been privy to, because we use that to encourage graduate students to do work in our factory. So that's essentially it. That's the post-secondary. And I think we do respect higher education, and we do think that higher education is the backbone of our society as we advance into the next level of development. And finally, all these other programs that we put in, and for example, the stealth fighter, these will have spillover effects. These, as I have experienced in the 1980s, I was a graduate student in the United States. At that time, the internet was just coming on stream. And it was the U.S. Department of Defense that provided that impetus for us to develop the internet and look at the industry that it's spawned today. And I'm sure that in military spending, that will happen because the spillover effect will encourage the development of technology to meet the challenges of the 21st century.
With all respect, I don't think my colleague actually answered the question about helping tuition. I mean, you can talk about all these opportunities, but they're only there for students who actually have the chance to go to university in the first place. I can say that it took me many, many years to pay off my own student loans, and in those days there were more grants than there are now, and I was very fortunate. In the last number of years, those opportunities have decreased for students. There is less support for students, all the while tuition has gone up. I also have 3 children, all of whom are also still paying down their student debt from their universities, but they had the opportunity to attend university. They had the family support, and they did have access to loans. That's good. But increasingly, as tuitions go up, as those opportunities decrease, it is more and more difficult for students to actually go. And as Michael Ignatieff has said many, many times, the liberal platform, the liberal approach is, if you get the grades, you get to go. And I'm so pleased that in our platform, part of the family pack is in fact support for post-secondary education. And I'm particularly excited about how it's $4,000, but it could be more for even lower income families. But I'm particularly excited about the approach, about putting it through an RESP, but from the government. The parents don't, this is purely government support for students, but it starts when they're in high school. And so it's a contribution that's made each year in the last 4 years of high school that encourages those children, those students, to stay in school through high school, and then they start getting the payout when they start at a post-secondary institution. The way it's structured, not only significant financial help, but also the way it's done to encourage finishing high school, and you only get it when you start at the university or college, I think is financially extremely good, but also a tremendous encouragement to students that we want to have access to that education.
So I would like to ask the follow-up question. So as the domestic student tuition goes up rapidly, the international student tuition also goes up at a higher rate.
Yes.
So the most international students, they are probably currently paying 2 to 3 times higher than the domestic student. So what's your opinions or policies about the international student tuitions?
One of the things I have... oh, sorry. I'm just so excited about this topic.
You're just excited about this topic. I understand that international students and local students will have different education rates. I believe it is university policy. Well, first of all, university policies are handled provincially, and yes, there is a federal component to it that encourages the development of universities. But I think there needs to be a way, as Martha suggested, that we need to encourage our domestic students to attend university. And what we need to do in order to keep the tuition affordable for everybody is to keep the entire university education system affordable to all. It is vitally important that we do have international students, and I would like to see in a lot of universities around the world, they try to attain somewhere between 14 to 15%, and the international students certainly enrich our culture, as I have when I came here as a foreign student back in the late 60s.
But I would also say, going down to the United States, which you did for some of your education, and then come back. And I think that's a really important part of this. I am the international trade critic for the Liberal Party, and in terms of international trade, international education opportunities is an increasingly important part of the engagement of countries with each other. It is economic, and yes, we want to encourage more international students, and so we do have to look at the costs. It's becoming very competitive. But it's also very exciting, because we find that the more international students we can attract to Canada, the more young people with tremendous skills and tremendous opportunities come to Canada and stay, and often stay. And it's one of the other pieces of what we want to do as a Liberal government, is to allow foreign students, make it easier for them to stay in Canada. But it is also an opportunity for Canadian students. We want to encourage them to go abroad, so that we can take advantage of all of these cultures, all of these languages, all of these experiences to enhance our economic prosperity. And it does. There's no question that that exchange, those opportunities to encourage foreign students to come to Canada, to encourage Canadian students to go abroad, is good for the students, it's good for families, it's good for Canada. It's something as a Liberal and a Liberal government very strongly supportive of, and want to encourage it as much as possible.
Yes, as we know, Ontario also encourages the international students under the provincial nominee program. And we do know a large proportion of them do stay after the university education. However, during the university days, they receive no settlement support whatsoever. And I would like to ask if your party would support some measure of support for the international students during the first year of arrival.
Short answer, yes. I will go back to the fact that the Harper government cut settlement services to agencies in the GTA, significant cuts, millions of dollars cut. 54 million in total, but 80% of that in the GTA. And those settlement services are there for people who are in Canada. They're not just for workers. They're also there. Students could take advantage of them. Cutting them is a move in the absolute wrong direction. We as a Liberal Party have committed to immediately put that funding back. But I would also, because of this, because of the importance of students, because of the importance of their success, it's not just in the workplace that you have challenges with language. It's not just there that you have challenges with some of the cultural changes that students have. We know that especially young people, when they come, it's different food, it's different language for sure, but it's different food, it's different cultural activities, it's different. And yes, absolutely, we want to make sure that they succeed, and in order to succeed, to make that transition as effective as possible.
So can I clarify that? I'm sorry, right now...
Mr. Leung have something.
Actually, Martha, I just need a clarification. I'm not sure that international students are entitled to settlement services.
Right now. They're not right now.
They're not.
Would you commit to allow them to be included as part of the settlement service recipients?
That is something that I will certainly look into if elected.
Okay, now it's up to the debating time. So after the break, we will have the closing statement.